As someone who holds multiple citizenships from around the world and enjoys the benefits and the security and the comfort of that, I'm a big advocate for having not only dual citizenship, but potentially an entire passport portfolio. And the reasons that you would want to do that continue to expand as the world gets crazier and crazier. Today, I'm going to share with you 9 reasons why dual citizenship is needed by everyone. So the old saying goes, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And I really have come to believe in that. There's something that changes inside of you when you have that first, second passport. Obviously, there's kind of a diminishing return when you get the third or the fourth or whatever number you go. Kind of like Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, who jokes about how he just became a father for the 5th time, and people aren't really as excited about it, and they're not as congratulatory about it the 5th time as they are the first. But certainly that first time, you feel a lot different. You feel like you have options. You feel like no matter what happens in the country where you're from, you may like living there, but if they do something you don't like, now you're in the driver's seat. They don't control you. If it's your first time here, my name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We are a boutique consultancy that helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. That means second residences, second citizenships, lower taxes, diversified assets, more personal freedom. I'm also the host of the biggest and best offshore conference called Nomad Capitalist Live, and that's open to everybody. So let's go into my reasons, 9 reasons for dual citizenship. They continue to expand. What I tell people is, there's 3 main reasons why someone would come to Nomad Capitalist. Number 1, you want help with your finances. Number 2, you want help with your freedom. And number 3, you want to increase your lifestyle. So finances could be tax reduction. It could be diversifying assets, protecting assets. Freedom could be everything from more open countries to more freedom to homeschool. I mean, freedom is whatever it means to you. Certainly freedom to run a business, freedom from regulations, freedom just to live your life, not be constantly bothered. And lifestyle could be everything from weather to just, better social opportunities, better dating, better everything, better food, who knows? You're seeing a lot of Canadians right now who are like, hey, this place isn't that bad. And then, they're freezing people's bank accounts. You know what? It's cold and miserable. Let's go somewhere else. And we'll lower our taxes too. So, you can accomplish all those things with second citizenship. Merely having a second citizenship does not lower your tax bill. We've talked about that separately. But the first reason, let's just start from the top. The most kind of core reason you would want second citizenship in this day and age is security, geopolitical events, political instability. You can talk about climate change. Take that however you want. Countries are going bankrupt, civil unrest. Do you want to be stuck in one country? Let's say that you're an American and you want to travel. Now, the United States is pretty strong, and so the fact that there's some civil unrest or their debt, to GDP ratio is high, or that people are increasingly at each other's throats, that's probably not going to stop the European Union from letting you come without getting a visa. But there are certain places in the world where if I'm going and doing business, or if I'm going and living, or if I'm going and visiting, I'd rather have a more what I call agnostic passport than the US. Or certainly you could say if you're Russian, you've learned that in the last number of months. If you're Israeli, you've perhaps learned that over the years, right? And so who knows what can happen in your country? I think a lot of Westerners are seeing, which is reflected in the fact that I just saw St. Lucia had like a 9-fold increase, I believe, in Americans applying for citizenship there. You're welcome, St. Lucia. I got it right here. I've talked about it. We're seeing golden visas, other citizenship programs, a dramatic increase in interest from Americans who are realizing, oh my goodness, in the last couple of years, basically what we've been talking about for a decade is true. And they're seeing political instability, and they want to hedge against that. You are not hedged if you only have one passport. I'm not just picking on the United States. This could be anywhere. It could be any country on earth. Okay. The second reason to have dual citizenship, asset protection. Now, you can certainly move assets, and we always recommend you do things legally. We like to follow the letter and the spirit of the law. So if you're an American and you want to move assets to foreign bank accounts, foreign brokerages, you want to invest in foreign stocks. In some cases, you want to set up a trust. You can do all those things. You may need to report it, and you should do that. Now, if you want to get out of that, then you can use the second passport to potentially change your status. So you can diversify. You can do some asset protection being within the country, but yet the idea that, hey, I have an asset protection trust somewhere else, but I'm still living in the country where I have the potential issue, isn't as secure as, I'm going to potentially live somewhere else. Again, I want people to play it straight, but obviously plenty of people have legitimate beefs for wanting asset protection. And so you can get some level of asset protection just by using those other structures, and we help people do that. But the second passport certainly can increase your optionality there. Number 3, of course, is mobility. Now, if you look at the Caribbean citizenship, one of the most common citizenship by investment programs, you can get that in, let's call it 6 months from the process of collecting all your paperwork, filing, going through the process. You're going to see like Antigua is a little bit slower, St. Kitts is a little faster. But those passports, if you exclude the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and let's just throw in the UAE for fun. We've called it historically the Ukuna countries. Those 5, you're going to have a harder time getting back into those countries. Now, the UAE, you can get a residence permit, you start a business, you get a visa. It's not that difficult for most people. But those are the most difficult countries that, let's say, a Caribbean citizenship cannot visit. There's a handful of others, like Morocco, you need a visa. Japan, you need a visa. We've done that. It's really not difficult. Thailand, you might need a visa. These are all relatively easy, it's just a little bit of inconvenience. So you've got citizenships that you can obtain in a matter of months by making a donation. You don't even, generally speaking, need to go there. And on a mobility perspective, because most countries in the world don't really care, they're not as judgmental as a handful of Western countries are, they're going to let you in the same way they would let an American in. They're going to give you a residence permit, perhaps on more favorable terms than they would let an American in, because in some countries, like the U.S. Embassy needs to get involved in submitting some paperwork, and they can be a lot slower than a country that just says, yeah, okay, whatever. And so mobility is important. Understand that, a Mexican passport, for example, really, for most people, you would lose out on 2 countries. The US and Australia, you would need to get a visa. You can go there, but you need to get a visa, right? That's the difference between a US and Mexican passport. 2 countries. There's a handful of others. Mexico has 1 or 2 the US doesn't. There's a few that it doesn't have. But, the average person is probably not in a rush to go to the countries that the Mexican passport doesn't have. And so mobility can be strengthened. Obviously, Russia and China, 2 countries that a couple of the citizenship programs in the Caribbean offer, probably not at the top of anyone's list right now. But historically, people do business in those places. Wouldn't it be nice for people to go there and not have to wonder, hey, is my country going to start a war with China? Or there's going to be a Cold War or a trade war or whatever kind of thing. I'd like to be able to make sure and go, make sure I can check on my factory. That's more of a historical comment, but certainly an issue that mobility to certain parts of the world is important. As someone who has, people working for us, has companies in various parts of the world, it's nice to go there. I don't want to set up a company. I don't want to make investments. I don't want to, store precious metals, what have you, in places where I can't go or I'm going to have a hard time going. And so mobility from a second citizenship is important. And by the way, if you don't have a great passport, you can expand your mobility with citizenship. And they're not just Caribbean citizenships. There's many different ways. We've talked about the many ways you can get it in other episodes. Investments, number 4. Potentially, depending on which citizenship you have, it's more open. If you claim European citizenship by descent, you've got an ancestor in your family tree, now you'll have an easier time investing in some European markets. You can do the same with Malta's citizenship program. It takes about 18 months. Now you can have greater access to investing in Europe. Potentially, it's easier to open a bank account. Potentially better in certain, kind of court situations. You can buy land, et cetera, et cetera. There are other citizenships. Cambodia for the longest time had a kind of an under-the-radar donation program. They still have an investment program for actual business owners, like if you own a factory. You can get citizenship there. What does that mean? It's not a great citizenship, but if you want to buy land in Cambodia, I can't say it's particularly cheap compared to a lot of other places, but in Asia, that's a very hard thing to do in most countries. Set aside Malaysia, South Korea, Japan, but in Southeast Asia, generally hard to buy land. A citizen can. And so that applies in many different parts of the world. The next reason to have citizenship by investment, generational planning. Let's say you have kids. So you want to have kids. Why not give them opportunities? There's a big article recently, I think it was in CNBC and in Business Insider, from a mom who got her children citizenship. Now, you don't have to want to reduce your taxes to say that you want to give your kids opportunities. That particular mom had Polish ancestry, and she got it for her, and she got it then for the kids. Now they can live anywhere they want in the EU. They can go to school. They can get health care. So her reasons were not some of the same reasons that we talk about, although I think having more schooling options for university, having more places to live, if you have kids, they may not be entrepreneurs as you are. Maybe they want to go and get a job. And if you're American or Canadian, hey, why not add Ireland and Germany and all those European markets to the list of places where they can just go and get a job because you got them that. And again, the same thing in Europe with Malta citizenship program, create an opportunity for your kids. Other people I talk to have older kids, like teenagers, and they're like, hey, my child wants to take over the family business. Maybe the child doesn't want to keep their current citizenship because there's just too many burdens that come with it. And so get them that Caribbean citizenship. Get them whatever it is that you can Again, if you can get it through the family tree, by all means do that. Look at the risk factors, but by all means, go ahead and do that. Give your kids more opportunities, whether it's business opportunities, whether it's travel opportunities, whatever the case may be. Other reason, number 6, culture. Maybe you're tired of the Western culture. Maybe you're tired of everything that's going on. You want a place that's more open and that's more of what you're looking for. There are countries that have that. If you have a second citizenship, you're going to guarantee yourself access to those countries, whether it's in Eastern Europe, whether it's in Latin America, more business-friendly countries. You're tired of countries where the government is out to get you. Politicians use you as cannon fodder to get votes, that you're evil, you're the devil. I can tell you there are still countries where they respect business owners. I've told the story about how we got called by the prime minister of a country and invited to something, and eventually I got a commendation from the prime minister. Thank you for creating high-paying jobs in our country. I'm not getting that in the U.S. And by the way, okay, you could say, well, you're too small of a fish in the U.S. versus this country. That's great. I don't think Jeff Bezos is getting too many commendations either. All the politicians are out to get him because he's the poster child for, evil rich guys. So, faster growing, more business friendly. Hey, maybe you want better dating opportunities. Whatever you want for culture, having a second citizenship, sure, a residence permit can help you with some of that. But having the citizenship gives you more long-term access, more guaranteed access. Number 7, lifestyle. Maybe you want guaranteed access to warmer weather. One reason, and I've given pros and I've given cons for having European Union citizenships. Hey, I don't care where you're from in the European Union, you can go and live in any of those warm weather climates. A number of them have tax incentives now. Portugal, Italy, Greece. You want warm weather? Let's say you're Canadian. Ain't no warm weather where your citizenship is. So you can get a residence permit in Europe, and that's probably as good as anything else. But if you want that long-term lifestyle and you want to stay there, that's another reason to have it. Education, number 8, could be cheaper, especially in the United States. Why would you send your kids to school in the United States when you can send them to Europe, even if you're not a citizen, by the way. But if you are a citizen, give your kid that opportunity. And then there's employment. Why have a U.S. passport? For me, there's one reason to have an U.S. passport, and that is I want to work in the United States because, let's face it, yes, the United States, the average wage is higher than most, I think pretty much every state, the average wage is higher than like every European country. So it's higher than Canada. People move from Canada. People move from parts of Europe to hey, I'm working in tech. I'm working in something that's high level. I can make more money in the U.S. And that's partially because the one thing the U.S. is good at is low payroll taxes. Doesn't mean if you're an employer that you still can't get a much better deal somewhere else where salaries are much lower, people are more eager, and payroll taxes are higher. It still comes out to be a better deal. But salaries, if you want to have a salary, because of those payroll taxes, that's the difference between the U.S. and let's say Belgium. We just had a guy we interviewed from Belgium I saw on the list not too long ago. And they're he wants, I don't remember what the amount was net, but he wants this gross, and it was less than half. It was he wants $3,000 and we should pay him $7,000 or something like that. Because he's used to the $4,000 just goes right to the government. It's incredible. And so that's a benefit for U.S. citizenship. But let's say you want the opportunity to work somewhere else. We have Americans who they don't want to be Americans. And by the way, not all of them are gazillionaires tired of paying taxes. Some of them are successful people with high-paying jobs, doctors, dentists, engineers who are we did a whole study on dentists. Where can dentists work? Which degrees from which countries can transfer somewhere else? We did a whole thing because we had lots of dentists coming to us. Some just wanted to move somewhere else and invest, and they said, hey, I'll live off the lower cost of living. Others said, I want to be a dentist somewhere. Where can I do that? Okay, here's where you can do that. And if you're an EU citizen, for example, you can have access to more EU markets, and so you can have a job there. Right? It's a place where, let's say you don't want to be American, let's say you don't want to be Canadian, you're concerned about what's happening there, but you're an employee and you want that option to work. Well, we had one employee who had saved up a lot of money, $10 million, and they were considering doing the Malta program because they wanted that EU option to be able to live and work there. Others are getting citizenship by descent. And so obviously those aren't the only countries, but those are some of the, maybe Europe obviously is a lot of countries to choose from. So employment is one benefit of having second citizenship. Now, if you're going to the Caribbean, employment in Antigua and Barbuda, probably not as intriguing for most people. But those are 9 reasons why you might want to consider second citizenship. And the list continues to increase every year. It comes down to finances, it comes down to freedom, it comes down to lifestyle. Those are the 3 things that we help people with. If you're looking for a second citizenship, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com, and we'd be happy to help you consider not just 3, not just 5, but dozens and dozens and dozens of options of what actually works for you, not just what someone wants to sell you.